What is going on, guys? Welcome back to an episode of Loadout. Now this episode is a little bit later than usual. There's a few problems of what I was going to do. I wasn't quite sure about ideas I had, and eventually came up with a good solid one, but also then a few other things popped up in my personal life that made it slightly difficult to get this video out when I wanted to get it out. But hopefully now everything is up, it's good, it's on a Saturday. I missed Weapon Weekly on a Wednesday, so that's unfortunate, but oh well, we're going to go straight to this video, and this week's loadout, of course, is a Uncharted 4, or at least a Nathan Drake Uncharted loadout. Now, this one is mainly based off weapons in the game, not so much upon posters or possibly trailers in the game. Now, this loadout, if it was entirely available in Battlefield 4, would include an AK-47, an M9, and then maybe a grappling hook to simulate the climbing. But there is no grappling hook in Battlefield 4, and there is no AK-47. So to compromise for that, I chose the RPK-74M. The M9 was still available, and for the grappling hook, I decided I'll go with explosive and chose the C4. Now, the RPK-74M is actually a very good gun, although there are others available that I didn't quite think matched as much. Now, there is a weapon that is very similar to the AK-47, pretty much identical in fact, in Battlefield Hardline, and that's the AKM, of course. But I recently played Hardline for 2 minutes before realizing why I stopped playing it. That game basically seems free to play at this point, and I still only have 24 hours in it. I doubt I will ever play it again, and if I do, it's for some unknown reason to me. Now, the RPK itself, or the RPK-74M, the full name of the weapon, it's pretty bad. I've talked about it before. I did a Weapon Weekly on it a while ago, and it is genuinely one of the worst guns in the game. It has this sort of awkward side-to-side recoil that sometimes kicks up at the same time, and it's very hard to control. You just don't know what you should be controlling in a way. It's, you know, you try to control it one direction, it goes back the other, and it's not the worst recoil out of any gun in the game, but it has this sort of awkward side-to-side wiggle, sort of wobble, at the same time, which makes it odd to use because you're sort of put off by this shaking of the gun. And another problem is the fact that these sights are extremely low and don't have any profile to them at all. They don't stand out to the point where you can clearly see enemies, and they seriously obscure vision entirely. It makes it very hard to track enemies at distance. And in close quarters, it only has 600 rounds per minute and does pretty much standard damage for LMGs, making it pretty much unusable in close quarters unless you're able to instantly get the drop or maybe even get a flank on someone. This is seriously a gun you do not want to use unless you are using it to get certain attachments or points. I'll be honest though, I sort of warmed up to it. Eventually I did begin to go on longer kill streaks, get more used to it, and I think aside from the fact that was partially luck, one of the things I definitely realized this gun is you want to use cover with this weapon more than any other one. Also, you want to burst fire. Like I said, the recoil is extremely awkward, so that anytime you try to instantly auto fire or instantly just put bullets down range or sort of spray and pray, you are not going to hit a single thing. By burst firing, I was instantly able to pick off lower headshots, and I was definitely able to get more kills by burst firing than I would be just holding down the trigger or even doing single shot. But as I was saying about cover, you definitely want to try and stay in cover, burst for as much as you can, and maybe even flank more with this weapon, because in other cases you will not do well at all. With something like a standard SMG or assault rifle, you'll definitely be able to go wherever and get as many kills as you want. With this thing, you seriously have to be careful when going around, otherwise you will not be able to get any kills or string any kill streak together. Now, in one-on-one, this gun is absolutely terrible. I've already mentioned the bad iron sights, and the slow rate of fire does not help, as well as the weak damage. It's really hard to beat someone one-on-one unless you are there, you're ready to go, and they were slightly behind you, or even, you know, they're completely unaware reloading or something like that. You have no hope winning any gunfights one-on-one with this weapon. Now, the one thing I'll say positive about this weapon, it looks nice. There is no gun in Battlefield 4 that has this sort of typical classic look to it with sort of the metal and the wood. A lot of the guns are polymer metal mixtures, where parts of the gun are metal, parts of it are polymer, and that's a bit of a shame because I really like this sort of classic style. It definitely adds something to the weapons and gives them sort of a gritty look, rather than having these perfectly fine weapons that are pretty modern 21st century things. Now the M9 pistol, which I believe is representative of the 92 or M92 FS in the game, I may have got that wrong about the name of the weapon, I can't entirely remember myself, but it's the weapon that Elena carries mainly throughout the game and occasionally is available to Nathan Drake. It's more prominent in Uncharted 2 than all of the others, and Uncharted 2 personally is my favourite of the game, so I mainly base the loadout upon that. Now the C4, although a little bit cheap to put it in the loadout, I couldn't really choose what else. I couldn't really think what else to choose. As I said, I could have gone with the grappling hook and hardline, but I just wouldn't be able to get this video out at all because playing hardline deters me from doing any videos at all. I genuinely have no love for that game, and seriously, if I was in charge of selling for that game, I would make it free to play. I think it is at a state such as that. There are no player base, so make it either as cheap as possible or free to play. But that's my little rant about hardline over. Now, although I keep bashing the RPK, I will be honest, this loadout is very fun, especially if you can use it effectively and definitely go on some really good kill streaks with it. You can see in several points in these clips, even though I'm a above average player, I was able to seriously dominate and do pretty well, but with a hell of a lot of lucky shots. This was reasonably late at night, so I wasn't quite in the mindset thinking tactically, so all the shots I was taking were just sort of, yeah, I think I can see someone, I'll shoot it, and it just happened to be my luck was absolutely on fire that day. I don't quite know what's happening. Whatever I had for breakfast, I should really have it more, because I haven't seen luck like this for myself in a video game for quite a while. Now, as I said before, of course, this weapon is best to be used while in cover. I'm not really sure that there's any other weapon that is going to work as well, or at least works poorly in the battlefield, but works so much better in cover than this weapon does. Now, obviously, using cover is one thing you only do for all guns in the game, if you can. Now, definitely burst fire. Until you get actually understand the recoil directly, you do not want to fire automatically at anything at any range. The recoil is odd and will definitely throw you off from anything you're trying to hit. So at first you definitely want to burst fire, especially at range, until you do eventually get used to the recoil, at which point you can begin to just hold down the trigger at anything running away from you, or even coming towards you for that matter. Now, although the RPK, like I said, is a very cool weapon, although unbelievably bad, and I think mainly needs a patch, but I quite like the fact that there is a weak weapon still in Battlefield 4. I do think when you talk about balance, you need to have those weak weapons and the good weapons to, the good ones to make the weak ones weak, and the weak ones to make the good ones good. That might sound a bit stupid to some people, oh no, all guns should be as good as each other. Personally, I don't like that. I think that there should still be a sort of rock, paper, scissors element within most weapons. So I like the fact that this weapon is pretty bad, but at the same time is definitely usable to some degree. Not to the point where it's useless, but to the point where you can use it, but no, it's not going to dominate and completely tear people apart. Now, we'll be honest, I would love to see an AK-47 in a Battlefield game sometime soon. If one is added in through DLC on Battlefield 4, that's slightly annoying, but that's perfectly fine. At least it's not Battlefield Hardline. But I definitely would love to see one in this game. The AK-47 has so much history behind it. The fact that it was made so long ago, yet is still widely used and still an extremely popular firearm, it definitely has a lot of history behind it, although some of the history is extremely dark. So maybe in Battlefield 5, whenever that comes out and whatever it's called, we might actually see a new AK-47, depending on what the era is, of course. I don't think they'd have one in modern day. That doesn't seem like what Battlefield wants to do at the moment. Maybe if there's a Cold War version, possibly then, of course, Vietnam is the obvious answer. Now, I'm hyped for Uncharted 4 beyond belief. I wasn't hugely impressed by Uncharted 3. But Uncharted 2 is definitely one of my favourite games of all time, maybe even my favourite game of all time, and I'm so excited to see Uncharted 4 finally come out. Although it was delayed in the first place, that's slightly annoying, nothing you can do about that though. Now, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your loadouts down below in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. This is Blue Monsoon, out.